everybody, I'm Tim Mooney, and I'm back with episode 3 of Shakespeare's Dirty Jokes. This time around, it's Act 1, Scene 3 of Twelfth Night. As I mentioned before, I'm spending the summer touring my latest one-man show, Breakneck Twelfth Night, to a bunch of festivals, and all that work has surprised even me of just how many dirty jokes Shakespeare has snuck into this play, and of just how those dirty jokes may, for lack of a better term, turn you on to a lifelong love of Shakespeare, looking past the difficult language to cut straight to the good stuff. In our first Twelfth Night Explainers, we explored the prologue that I perform as part of Breakneck Twelfth Night, followed by scenes 1 and 2. Those opening scenes of the play touched on news of Olivia's mourning for her late brother, and how that mourning has led her to close herself off from any potential male suitor. As we move on to scene 3, that issue remains front and center as we find ourselves in Olivia's house. We meet Olivia's Uncle Toby, almost always referred to as Sir Toby, but even though he holds the great status of knight, the respectfulness we might anticipate is undercut by his unfortunate surname, Belch. It's a name that would have been right at home in the style of Commedia dell'arte, immediately alerting us that this character is not to be an object of sober high regard. In fact, we immediately find him arguing with Maria, the handmaid, about his right to drink well into the night. It seems that Toby has had a few drinks already. In fact, he seems that way in every scene he appears in. But the immediate source of their argument surrounds the knight that Sir Toby has brought in to woo his niece, in spite of her commitment to 7 years of mourning. Toby argues that Andrew has a large pension and all the good gifts of nature, which may be our first dirty joke of the scene, as Toby may be implying that Andrew has been endowed below the belt, as it were. Maria counters that those gifts indeed make him almost natural, which itself is a euphemism for an idiot, or what Toby will later call a clodpole. A natural suggests someone uncivilized or in a state of nature, perhaps only one step removed from the apes. Andrew enters, and as they exchange greetings, Toby encourages Andrew to accost Maria. Andrew misses the implications of accost entirely, and perhaps to demonstrate his cluelessness, Maria encourages Andrew to bring his hand to the buttery bar and let it drink. A buttery bar was a place where beer and other provisions might be dispensed, often over a portal marked by a half door. Shakespeare references no such door, and I think it's important to note that just because there is some historical way of explaining a given reference, that does not mean that the characters are not themselves turning an actual historical thing into a metaphor for something else entirely. We'll come back to this question in particular for a reference when we get to Act 2. Most performances find Maria bringing Andrew's hand onto her breast, accosting herself through Andrew's hand, as it were. Andrew is flummoxed, and his discomfort with female contact may make us wonder about his intentions with his supposed crush, Olivia. Some have suggested that Andrew's insistence that he can keep his hand dry is yet another dirty joke, which may leave us wondering just what Andrew has been doing with that hand. This awkward intimacy paints Andrew as a blundering fop, probably just looking to bolster his own ego and financial status by marrying a countess, and maybe not really all that interested in women at all. If this is the case, then it fits right in with a variety of alternate sexual preferences and proclivities that Shakespeare teases us with throughout the play, in situations that reach well beyond the usual byplay that we find when men play the roles of women and then often double back disguising themselves as men. Andrew declares his love of fencing, dancing, and bear baiting. Bear baiting was an ugly blood sport in which dogs would attack a bear that was tied to a stake, while the audience would lay bets on which animal would survive. Rather than speaking 3 or 4 languages word for word without book, as Toby has bragged on Andrew's behalf, Andrew stumbles on the relatively easy French word pourquoi, which means for what or why. lamenting that he wishes he had spent more time in the tongues. And Toby jokes that such time in the tongues, which is what they would call curling irons, would have given him an excellent head of hair. Toby reassures Andrew about the quality of his hair, noting that he'd like to see a housewife, then pronounced something closer to huswife, which is another term for a prostitute, take thee between her legs and spin it off. This joke, which plays on just how they would spin flax fiber into thread back in those days, also abstractly references a symptom of venereal disease, assumedly acquired from such a housewife, which was then thought to cause baldness. But whether we follow any of that or not, we will still get a joke here, as Andrew's head between a housewife's legs is amusing enough in its own right. And so, Act 1, Scene 3 of our breakneck version of Twelfth Night. Olivia's house. Enter Sir Toby Belch and Maria the handmaid, also of course played by a young man. What a plague means my niece to take the death of her brother thus? By my troth, Sir Toby, you must come in earlier o' nights. My lady, your niece, takes great exception to your ill hours. You must confine yourself within the modest limits of order. Confine? I'll confine myself no finer than I am. These clothes are good enough to drink in. That quaffing and drinking will undo you. I heard my lady talk of it yesterday, and of a foolish knight you brought in to be her wooer. Sir Andrew Ague-Cheek, he hath 3,000 ducats a year. Aye, but he'll have but a year in all these ducats. He's a very fool and a prodigal. Fie that you say so. He speaks 3 or 4 languages, word for word, without book, and hath all the good gifts of nature. He hath indeed, almost natural. Moreover, he's drunk nightly in your company. With drinking healths to my niece. I'll drink to her as long as there is passage in me throat, and drink in Illyria. What? Here comes Sir Andrew Ague-Face. Sir Toby Belch, how now, Sir Toby Belch? Sweet Sir Andrew, bless you, fair shrew, and you too, sir. Accost, Sir Andrew, accost. Good mistress, accost. I desire better acquaintance. My name is Mary, sir. Good mistress, Mary, accost. You mistake, knight. Accost is front her, board her, woo her, assail her. By my troth, is that the meaning of accost? Very well, gentlemen. Fair lady, do you think you have fools in hand? Good sir, I have you not by the hand. Marry, but you shall have, and here's my hand. Now, sir, bring your hand to the buttery bar, and let it drink. Wherefore, sweetheart, what's your metaphor? It's dry, sir. Why, I think so. I'm not such an ass, but I can keep my hand dry. But what's your jest? A dry jest, sir. Are you full of them? Aye, sir, I have them at my fingers' ends. Marry, now I let go your hand. I am barren. I'll ride home tomorrow, Sir Toby. Pourquoi, my good knight? What is pourquoi? Do or not do? I would I had bestowed that time in the tongues that I have in fencing, dancing, and bear baiting. Oh, had I but followed the arts, then hadst thou had an excellent head of hair. My hair becomes me well enough, does not? Excellent well. It hangs like flax on a distaff. I hope to see a housewife take thee between her legs and spin it off. Faith, I'll ride home tomorrow, Toby. Your niece will not be seen, or if she be, she'll none of me. The Count himself here woos her. She'll none of the Count. I have heard her swear it. Tut, there's life in it, man. I'll stay a month longer. I'm a fellow of the strangest mind in the world. I delight in masks and revelling sometimes altogether. Faith, I can cut a caper. Wherefore are these things hid? Is it a world to hide virtues in? Shall we set about some revels? What shall we do else? Let me see the caper. Sir Andrew executes something intended to resemble a dance step as Sir Toby follows him off. Ha! Ha! Excellent! So that's Act 1, Scene 3 of Breakneck Twelfth Night. Perhaps you're noticing a pattern here. Twelfth Night is not all dirty jokes, but there are certainly enough to hold our attention. Check back in for Scenes 4, 5, and more. Once again, I'm Tim Mooney with the Timothy Mooney Repertory Theater, and I bring these breakneck shows to theaters around the United States. I would love to come and perform for you or your school or group. Don't worry, our other plays are a lot less bawdy than this one. You can also find my work online at breakneckshakespeare.com. See you on the stage.